Hello there, my name is Elijah Mungi. Welcome back to the channel, and if you do hear some noise outside, please do excuse me. It's a bunch of kids that are playing outside. But back to the topic, I'm going to be telling you why impatience will cost you going forward. Stay tuned. So, there are many times I have been impatient, and through doing that action and doing it much more earlier than I had expected it to do, I later come to regret doing it earlier, because I feel like if I had just waited a bit more, I could have gotten more of the experience. There was a time I had a pimple on my left cheek, and so it had persisted for a whole week. Every time that I touched it, I became more agitated, and one day I was really too focused on it, and I really made a drastic decision to buy the pimple gel that people do apply so that the contents of the pimple can remove themselves. Remember, it had stayed for a whole week, and so I bought the gel for 600 Kenya shillings. But I was instructed that I have to apply the gel only at night. I cannot apply it at day because it may affect my skin. So I buy it and I put it in my bag, but some hours later, the pimple by itself, it just removes the contents that were inside. And so I find myself, I don't really need the gel. To make things worse is that the gel was expiring 2 months from the time that I bought it. What a waste of money that was. Just a moment of impatience, and you really understand that this pimple will go. But I really wanted it to go as fast as possible because I really felt insecure about it. That was my price of impatience. Now, that was just the scenario. That was just one single scenario. There are many situations that impatience can really mess up our lives. I always say that there are mistakes that you can really afford to learn from, and they won't have the biggest consequences. But there are some mistakes, once you make them once, they could really determine the path of your life. And so impatience in getting to relationships, you may really be in love with the idea of getting to a relationship, and you're not patient enough to find the person that really resonates with you, and so you enter a relationship with somebody who you do not agree with. There could be greater consequences going forward. Let's say you choose to get married. There could be a really messed up life for you and your children going forward. Other mistakes could be impatience in work, where you really have to wait for a particular communication to be made for you to act, but you really make the action before the communication comes. And so you really go in the opposite direction, and you find yourself in a really bad place. Impatience is not always the best way to go. I know sometimes we have the pressure that we really need to act at that moment, but it is not hard to wait. In this new generation of ours, mainly the Gen Z, we have been termed as a really impatient generation, and in a way I can see the truth in that. But I do believe there's a bit of advantage in our impatience, and also a disadvantage in our impatience as well, because things have really changed. Before, these guys had a plan. You go to school, you finish school, you get married, and you start a family. And also before you start a family, you had to get a job. But I believe we are a bit patient in some ways, by saying that we really need time to really build ourselves and to lay the foundation. However, our impatience has really not been the best in terms of wanting to achieve certain things. For example, I know many of us really want to reach the stage that we are really financially stable, where we are not struggling. But shortcuts are not always the best. Sometimes you may get to the destination, and you're not the person that you need to be to really stay in that destination. And so you find yourself, you're not in the right mental state, in the right physical state. However, I believe, as I've read in the book of Ecclesiastes, and it says there's a time for everything. There's a time to speak. There's a time to keep quiet. There's a time to plant. There's a time to reap. And so we have to be really discerning. We really have to have a certain level of wisdom that we need to develop ourselves first. Because let's say you really want to get a huge amount of money. Compare this. Somebody who really goes through the shortcuts of really, let's say they choose to become a drug dealer and they get millions in 1 year. However, there's another person who is going to take another route of trying to develop who they are. Regardless, their speaking ability, their critical thinking, their public speaking. And so that the gifts that he has developed are the ones that really bring in whatever he wants. But for the person who has not taken time to really develop himself, he will easily fumble what he has. So shortcuts are not always the best. Impatience is not always the best. Take the time that you actually need to become the person you need, even in relationships. There is no need to get into a relationship when you're clearly not ready for one. Of course, many people would desire to be in one, but you have to be honest with yourself. Do you really need to take a step back and to really reflect on the person that you actually need to be for that to succeed? So as we finalize the video, I am trying myself to develop patience. Patience in my work. I may want things to go a bit fast, but I do realize that all good things take time. Even when I may want to be successful or really try to achieve this particular thing, it will not come in one day. And it would be very foolish of me to expect that I will start today and tomorrow I will be a master. Even a plant takes time to grow. It has to be put in the soil, and it has to be fed with water and light for it to grow. So allow yourself to be exposed to the factors that make you the person that you need to be, and in due time you will see the true gifts that come with that. Being patient enough to know that for me to grow, I need to take time to understand myself first. I wish you the best. Thank you and have a great week. Please like, subscribe and share. See you next week.